Alright you guys, welcome back to another deck profile. Today we're going to be going over Fighting Aggro. This deck is the #1 seed from the pod. It's the number 7 overall seed. And this was probably the #1 seed that we had the most question marks about. Is it deserving of the #1 seed? Is it going to just run over this bracket? Is it actually a good deck? And right now those question marks are still being answered because we're in the middle of the tournament, rather. This deck has already won its first game. It's going to go up against Beedrill in its second game, probably tomorrow sometime. Who knows when? The one thing that we will say about it is it is fast. It can hit hard, and it is pretty relentless. So we will go over it. It's basically just all of the good fighting Pokemon that you could possibly play, plus all fighting support. That's really all it is. Nothing too fancy with it. The cornerstone of the deck is this Crabominable, though. It does have an attack 80 for 1 on a non-EX 140 HP Pokemon. It does swing big, so that's why we're playing a 2-1 line so that we can constantly keep looping it. We are going to be playing a 1-1, whoopsies, grabbed another one, a 1-1 Carbon Break line for just a little bit extra acceleration. If you are against a deck that has a lot of EXs, Safeguard does slow your opponent down enough to where they have to find Hex, they have to find Goop, they have to keep finding these sort of things, and it does accelerate some of your big boppers, the ones that are actually going to be taking a whole lot of prizes. And then the only other evolution that we are playing besides our support Pokemon, let me dig through here, we are going to play a 2-1 Aerodactyl line. This really isn't that important, but since all of your attackers are basic Pokemon, except for Carbon Break and a Crabominable, except for those two, you have I think it's 10 basic Pokemon that are all fighting that are just attackers. So having Aerodactyl can slow your opponent down a little bit if you get it early. Just remember to use your own. It's going to be hard to evolve your own Pokemon around Aerodactyl as well. So everything else in the deck, like I said, basic fighting Pokemon, and then your support Pokemon. Go through them one by one. We are going to play a Sudowoodo. It's called Watch and Learn. The attack, if your opponent used a Pokemon during the last turn, use it as this attack. This is for anything that's like a big attacker, like let's say they have like a Mega Rayquaza out for some reason, and they're just slaying your things left and right. Watch and Learn will come up and bop them right back. So it's for anything that's big HP Pokemon that are swinging big, like big tanks. This is kind of a tank killer. Stunfisk, kind of an MVP in this deck. It does do a lot of damage. It sets up a lot of KOs on the bench by spreading that 20 snipe with Muddy Water. Rumble can also be nice to lock stuff in the active in case of emergency sort of things. Same with this one. We do have Rumble on this one, 30 as well. Keeps them from retreating. And then you have Geostrike, does 10 damage to each of your bench Pokemon, but it does 120 for 3 or for a non-EX Pokemon. Being able to use that over and over again is really nice. Regirock, 40 for 2, and then 120 for 3 if they're an EX with no downside on 120 basic. These are basically kind of like the same thing, your big boppers against basic or EX Pokemon. Hawlucha is one of your early game attackers, does 20 for 1 or 40 for 2, just really, really fast, really early, just to apply a lot of that pressure. Landorus is one that we've kind of been shaky on because it's an EX, but Shot of Power, being able to do 20 and accelerate, it's nice for when you have Aerodactyl out and you can't get Carbon Breakout, but you still need acceleration. Landorus is your next best option there for that little mini acceleration. We are playing this Hawlucha as well. It's not an EX because of the EX rule, but free retreat, 60 damage to an EX, pretty dang good there. Terrakian's EX, it does have that Revenge, Retaliate for 90 damage back. Kind of a bigger bopper attacker. That's one of the few things that can do 90 for a little low energy. We are playing a Marsh Shadow GX as well, just because it does have the capability of one-shotting, and then it also can copy any of these attacks, so it can act as, since this is kind of just like a, hey, use whatever attack you can at the time, Marsh Shadow is if you really want to use a specific one, it's going to come in handy mid to late game. And we are playing this Relicanth as well. It does 30 snipe to one of your opponent's Pokemon for every tool and stadium card your opponent has in play. So if they have 2 or 3 tools in play, plus that stadium, you're going to be sniping for 90 for 1 energy. Actually pretty good attacker there. So you are playing these 10 plus those evolutions I mentioned. It is just kind of a, hey, here's all this fighting Pokemon with all this fighting support. We're going to try to take early prizes and apply a lot of pressure. We are playing all 10 of this, or not, we're not playing all 10 of the support Pokemon. Sorry, we're only playing 8 of them. We're not playing Spiritomb because there's not a lot of evolutions. And then Dunsparce because this deck doesn't really need setup. You don't need to put 3 Pokemon on the bench. You only need your 1 fighting attacker. You don't need like a backup attacker. Pretty much you only need like a Terrakion with an energy attached. There's your backup attacker. The rest of these can all attack for 1 energy, or you're going to have enough energy attached anyways, or you can swoop into them, that sort of thing. So you don't need Dunsparce or Spiritomb. These are totally fine. Just those 8. Moving on to supporters, that's what they're called. Bebe Search. We are going to play a Wally, even though we don't have many evolutions. This is just to get around your own Aerodactyl in case you need to. Karina is in every deck, but it shines in this deck because it can search for any Pokemon. Skyla, Rosie's, and Collector, you'll still play these 2 just for search, even though you're not playing Dunsparce. Shuffle Draw, both N and Rocket's Admin, Juniper and Sycamore, Colress and Copycat, as well as, scoot everything over here, as well as Oak's New Theory, it's in every deck, but one that you don't see a lot in the decks is Kukui, because like I said, this deck is all about that early pressure and relentless just knocking damage down. So Kukui can make attacks just start doing a lot of extra damage, that chip damage early. That's really what you want to do. Malgo and Teammates for your 2 search for any 2. You don't really need twins because you're going really aggro really early. AZ, Lysander, and Guzma for all of your switching needs. And then Trump Card, Marlies, Iris, and Hex to round out your supporters. The only weird one here is Kukui. The rest of them are all very standard. Except for maybe Iris, but Iris does need to be more standard. I think it's deserving to go in every deck. Moving on to items here. Search-based items, Swoop Teleporter, really, really good in this deck. Just because you have a lot of different basic attackers, switching into the correct one whenever you need to. This is a deck that I would actually consider Ninja Boy in, one of the few that I would consider Ninja Boy in. Computer Search for extra search. Communication, Luxury Ball, Level Ball, Ultra Ball, all standard searching cards. You notice no Evo Soda, which is normally in decks. Wally is enough to get around your Aerodactyl, because you only need to do it once or twice a game. If you get Aerodactyl out early, that is. Misty's Wrath, Oak, and Bill for your draw. Looking more towards recovery, you're going to have the Item Finder and Junk Arm combo, as well as Versus Seeker and Pal Pad, having those in every deck. Super Rod for extra recovery, Retriever. You don't really need anything else. I like Super Rod instead of the Stretcher, purely because getting energies back can be important in this deck, because they do find their way to the discard somewhat quickly, actually. And then everything else, you're going to have Field Blow, you're going to have Double Gust, because like I said, early pressure, so extra ways to gust are super, super nice. In Oak's Inventions in every deck. Scoop Up, Escape Rope for switching, and then some of the other non-standard stuff here. Battle Compressor, that's for Mars Shadow, really to get the correct attacker in the discard pile. Also helps for early Shot of Powers and early Power Gems. Great ways to add cards into the discard that you can accelerate from. Max Potion is basically just for Cabrominable, because it does damage to itself for every damage on you, so it attacks for 1 energy, and most of your stuff attacks for 1 energy anyways, so Max Potion really great in this deck. And then Laser, just that early pressure, early damage, you want to laser them to get that pressure going early. It does feel very, very aggressive. It does add a lot of that aggression really early, and that's one of the best parts about that deck, is that your opponent is forced into a lot of situations really quickly. Fighting Stadium, Stark Mountain, and Scorched Earth, your only stadiums. More damage to EXs, energy movement, so you can charge up stuff in 1 turn if you need to, and Scorched Earth just for some extra draw power. Don't need Broken Time Space with this deck, you only have your support Pokemon for your evolutions. Choice Band and Muscle Band to add that extra damage early, as well as Fury Belt and Expert Belt. Like I said, this deck is an early pressure deck, so any way that we can add damage in the form of tool cards, we're going to take. Expert Belt, remember to play correctly around this card, because it does give up that extra prize. Floatstone EXP Share, Floatstone, pretty standard looking card there, as well as EXP Share to keep your energy flowing. And then we are going to play a Focus Sash to keep stuff from getting one-shot. Max Potion does work well with that card. And finishing out the stuff here, we are going to play all 4 of the Elite Four, plus Dowsing Machine. No reason not to play any of these. Dowsing Machine, best ace spec in the game. And then Special Energy, really only Strong Energy. There's not very much that uses DCE. I think it's like 1 or 2, like the Regirock uses DCE, and that's about it. So there's really no reason to play DCE. You could play DCE and the Aerodactyl from Fates Collide if you really wanted to, and that's not a bad idea at all. And actually, it probably should be in here. But Aerodactyl from Fates Collide and DCE if you're looking for that sort of combo. And then 3, 6, 9, 12 fighting energies to guarantee your stealth. Energies per turn. Most of your stuff's just attacking for 1 energy anyways, so 12 is more than enough. So yeah, fighting aggro is a very, very simple deck. It does apply a lot of that early pressure, keeps your opponent on their toes. They really need to hit the nuts early. If they don't hit like their broken time space early, or they pop off with those turns of like multiple oaks in a row, they can start falling behind real fast. So that does it for the deck. If you have any questions, please let me know. If not, we will